Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vichabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we will revise Unit 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, which covers from Canto 3, verse number 40 onwards, up to Chapter 7, verse number 11, where you all will be doing your respective presentations, and then I will also speak for these respective chapters in brief. So let's begin. Nitya is the first speaker.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna everybody. Seeking permission from all devotees, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, Sri Radha Krishna to present Srimad Bhagavatam today. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. Verses, chapter 3, verses 40 to 44 and chapter 4, verses 1 to 25. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Krishna and is non-different from him. Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as respectfully as we worship the Lord, and thereby we can derive the ultimate blessings of the Lord through its careful and patient study. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum of life, a spotless Purana, and is as brilliant as the sun. Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are like the torch bearers for the blind people of Kali Yuga. It will dispel all the darkness in the hearts of the materially conditioned souls. Srimad Bhagavatam is all light, all bliss, and all perfection. Srimad Bhagavatam is the answer for questions exposed by the sages. Where has religion taken shelter after Lord Krishna left to his spiritual abode? Sri Vyasadeva delivered the Srimad Bhagavatam to his son Sukdev Goswami, who spoke it to Parikshit Maharaj as he sat on the banks of the Ganges awaiting his death. Sutta Goswami, in this version, is presenting Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages of Naimisaranya as he had heard it from Sukdev Goswami. All transcendental messages are received in the chain of disciplic succession called Parampara. Unless received through Parampara system, the knowledge is not bona fide. One should hear Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention with the bona fide representative in devotee association, and then will be able to realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every case. Simply hearing it is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention as Sutta Goswami did. He drank the juice of Srimad Bhagavatam through his ears. Realization means to respect the previous acharyas, completely understand and present it in an interesting way based on the time, place, and circumstance without obscuring the original meaning of the text. This should be the standard of recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Vyasadev's son Sukdev Goswami was a liberated soul from the beginning. He was completely indifferent to matter. He was a sannyasi and had samadarshana. He did not distinguish one living being from another, as he only saw the spirit soul. In the dealing of the damsels who were bathing, when Sri Vyasadeva passed by, they covered themselves. But they did not do so when Sukdev Goswami passed by, as they could understand this. Sri Vyasadeva, though an internally realized soul and guru, Being a grihastha, as a custom, did not show it outwardly. Sukhdev Goswami was an ideal preacher. He would only stay at a householder's home only for a short time, enough to milk a cow and obtain alms. He would bless the fortunate householder and give them transcendental knowledge. For one who's in the renounced order of life, they should not be allured by the clamor of the householder's worldly possession or become subservient to worldly men. The Grihastha preachers are no different from the Brahmanas who chant Vedic mantras, and they will obtain the same benefits as the Brahmanas. The sages were completely absorbed in Lord Krishna, and all their queries about Parikshit Maharaj relating to his birth activities and his kingship, and why he gave up everything to sit on the banks of the Ganges awaiting his death, all relate to Lord Krishna. His transcendental pastimes are thus glorified with their queries. Great sages like Vyasa are liberated souls and can clearly see the past and future. Vyasadeva was able to see the future anomalies in Kali Yuga, and accordingly he made arrangements so people can execute a progressive life in this age which is full of darkness. He compiled the Vedas for the benefit of mankind. The sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas are for the purification of occupational duties. To simplify the process, he divided one Veda into four and gave it to the renounced sages, who in turn entrusted it to their disciples and grand disciples. The historical narration called the Mahabharata and Puranas are the fifth Veda. The Mahabharata is for women, sutras, and for the friends of the twice-born, as they are more interested in stories than philosophy. Within Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, and the ultimate goal of all Vedic knowledge is to know Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Okay, super excellent. Matan Prabhu is next.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. I am seeking permission and blessing from all devotees, from Srila Prabhupada, from Sri Radha Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. Please forgive me for any mistakes or shortcoming on my presentation. My presentation is just a continuation from my last presenter, Nitya. I will be speaking about the Canto 1, Chapter 4, verses 26 to 31. That subtitle is Srila Vyasadeva's Dissatisfaction. And verses 32 to 33, the title Narada Muni visits Srila Vyasadeva. So the chapter 4 is all about appearance of Sri Narada, and it is described in the last few verses, especially verses 32 33 where he is appearing. So it was widely expected that Srila Vyasadeva will be very happy after having completed, having compiled so many Vedas and Puranas. But Srila Vyasadeva found himself dissatisfied. Despite having composed extensive Vedic literatures intended for the holistic welfare of humanity, although he had fulfilled his duties with precision and devotion, the inner contentment he anticipated remained elusive. Perplexed by his unrest, the sage began to introspect, searching for the root of his dissatisfaction. True fulfillment, he realized, comes only when the heart is at peace, a state that lies beyond the realm of material achievements. Reflecting deeply, Vyasadeva questioned himself, why am I still unhappy? He pondered further. I have allowed all the prescribed rituals, honored the Vedas, served my spiritual master, and performed rigorous fire sacrifices within the lineage of disciplic succession. What could possibly be lacking? He began to suspect that his oversight lay in not sufficiently emphasizing devotional service, the one process capable of fully satisfying Lord Krishna and perfecting the soul. While Vyasadeva had mastered the intricacies of Vedic knowledge and its prescribed practices, he recognized that these were merely means to ultimate goal. The purification achieved through Vedic rituals serves to elevate the living being submerged in matter, but true transcendence lies beyond these rituals. Despite his vast knowledge, Vyasadeva felt a void, dissatisfaction born of missing the essential focus, which is devotion to Supreme. The inner turmoil was not due to ignorance, rather it arose from realization that even the most comprehensive knowledge is incomplete without devotion. Bhagavata Dharma, the poor devotional service of the Lord, was absent in his earlier works. Devotional service transcends monastic philosophies and is the hallmark of Paramahamsas, the highest renunciants. While Vyasadeva's writing covered many aspects of the spirituality, they did not fully expound upon the Lord's transcendental activities. This omission left him feeling unfulfilled, as only through loving service to the Lord can both the individual soul and the Supreme become truly satisfied. At that moment at that moment of regret, Vyasadeva's spiritual master Narada Muni arrived at his cottage. I would like to recite the verse 33, which is the essence of the chapter 4. So verse 33 is Tam avignaya sahasa pratyuttaya kadam munihi puyayam asa vidivan naradam sura pujitam. The translation is, at the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. Overjoyed, Vyasadeva immediately rose from his seat to warmly welcome and honor him. Narada Muni, a direct disciple of Brahma, the first created being and original teacher of the Veda, stood as the prominent figure in the disciplic succession. Brahma, having received the Vedic wisdom directly from Sri Krishna, passed it to Narada, who became the second Acharya in the lineage. As the representative of Brahma, Narada commanded the same respect as his teacher and subsequent disciple in the chain of disciplic succession, were similarly revered as carriers of this sacred knowledge. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, super excellent presentation. First presentation by Patan Prabhu is super excellent. Okay,
Thank
any questions, comments, realizations for presenters?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, go ahead, Abhishek.
One point is I am not clear is when we say that on like glorification of pastimes of Lord Krishna, it satisfies Lord also. So can something more be discussed on this?
Okay, Nitya and Abhishek Prabhus, Nitya and Matan Prabhus, would you like to answer?
Can
Yes,
you please
Prabhu,
repeat
I
the
can try. Sorry.
Matan Prabhu, go ahead.
Can you please repeat the question? So I'm not sure. But
Abhishek Prabhu, would you repeat?
So question is, Prabhuji, that how the description of Lord's activities, it also satisfies the Lord himself.
Okay. Matan Prabhu and Nitya.
because the glorification of Lord Krishna is missing in his when he compiled the Vedas one Veda into 4 different Vedas. That's all ritualistic and karmakanda, services and demigod worship, and which doesn't really say anything about the transcendental activities of the Lord. So there's no real connection between the individual soul and the super soul. So that's what I think. So missing. So
All right. Nitya wants to add something.
Yes, Prabhu, I can try. The name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord are not different from Him. So when the description is applied to the pastimes of the Lord, we are speaking about the Lord. It's not different from Him, so it satisfies the Lord.
Yeah, very good. Abhishek Prabhu, does that satisfy you?
I'm able to understand that descriptions of the Lord satisfy the jiva because this is their constitutional position. But how is it related to the Lord? It's still not clear to me.
Yeah, so it's a fact that when you glorify the Lord is pleased by that endeavor because you are glorifying the Lord. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. There is no truth beyond him. So instead of glorifying anything and everything, you have to glorify the Lord. That's a fact. And of course, it satisfies the Lord also. It's a fact. Abhishek Prabhu.
Makes sense, bro.
And Nitya correctly also answered that there is no difference between the Lord and the Lord's pastimes. So one is that you can just say, "Oh Lord, you are great." Yes, that is also glorification. Or you can describe the pastimes. It's not different than the Lord. That's also glorification of the Lord. Abhishek Prabhu.
Thank you.
And Vijay Prabhu also correctly pointed out that it's not only the Lord. If you also glorify the devotees of the Lord, then the Lord is also satisfied. And let me ask you a question for all of you based on what Vijay Prabhu has said. So every time in the temple, say early morning, we sing kirtan of a particular devotee, that so and so devotee has sung so and so kirtan, and we are singing that same kirtan. So why do we sing that devotee's kirtan and not our kirtan? Anybody knows? Anybody wants to try? Why do we sing other devotees' kirtan? So if you open any temple book, even if you go to Toronto Temple, there's a temple book. It will say so and so devotees kirtan, so and so devotees kirtan. Why do we sing so and so devotees kirtan and not my kirtan? Okay, so the answer is that when you sing the kirtan of the pure devotees, the Lord is pleased because the Lord remembers the pure devotee. So what is the definition of pure devotional service? Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam, that you will do what is favorable for Krishna as Krishna desires. So Krishna is pleased when you sing the kirtan of pure devotee because it reminds the pure devotees to Krishna and it pleases Krishna. So we are singing the kirtan, we are glorifying the pastimes to please Krishna. And what Abhishek Prabhu is asking, I'm just adding more points to it, that when you glorify the pastimes, when you sing the kirtan that is sung by the pure devotees, it pleases Krishna, and that is pure devotional service. Abhishek Prabhu, everybody?
Thank you, bro.
All right, super excellent inquiry, Abhishek Prabhu. Okay, let me also quickly summarize chapter 3, verse 40 onwards, and then chapter 4 as well. So chapter 3, verse 40 onwards up to chapter 7, verse 11 is unit number 2, which is titled Narad Muni's instruction on Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Vyasadeva. From chapter 3, verse 40 onwards, Sutta Goswami is expanding on the questions of the sages. After Sutta Goswami's brief answers in the previous set of chapters, which was in unit 1, Sutta Goswami is going to introduce Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sutta Goswami is going to praise Srimad Bhagavatam. Sutta Goswami had responded in brief to the 6 questions of the sages. By reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami wants to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam in detail. Therefore, Sutta Goswami praises Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the cream of all Vedic literature. Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. Simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get the benefit of the holy name. Srimad Bhagavatam is also Krishna himself. Therefore, if one cannot chant the holy name the whole day, hence devotees sometimes take time to recite Srimad Bhagavatam, and you get the same benefit, whether you are chanting holy name or whether you are reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is spotless Purana. one can derive the same benefit from Srimad Bhagavatam as was possible when Krishna was personally present on earth. All darkness in heart of conditioned soul can be eradicated. Therefore, one should take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sutta Goswami says that I had heard Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention, and I am going to speak the same Srimad Bhagavatam by the mercy of Srila Sukadeva Goswami. Sutta Goswami says, I have studied and assimilated the knowledge. Plus, Sutta Goswami says, I am going to speak not from my mind. I will only repeat what I have heard. Sutta Goswami will speak according to his realization. Sutta Goswami will not add nor subtract anything. Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. Therefore, for all of us, somehow or other, hear Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention. This leads to the discussion to Canto 1, Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is titled The Appearance of Srila Narad Muni. Saunaka Rishi inquires about the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. The qualities of Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj are also described here. Sukadeva Goswami is the topmost of realized souls. Sukadeva Goswami attained the Samadarsina stage, which is described in Bhagavad Gita 5.18. And Sukadeva Goswami does not see at bodily level. Sukadeva Goswami did not go through the purificatory process. He was already elevated right from when he was in his mother's womb. So Sukadeva Goswami was 16 years young, walking around completely naked. But the damsels who were bathing in the river did not cover themselves. But at the same time, when Srila Vyasadeva was walking by, even though Srila Vyasadeva was fully dressed, still the damsels covered themselves. So why? Vyasadeva is also a transcendental stage, but because Srila Vyasadeva is in the householder life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul as a matter of custom. Householder has to distinguish between male and female, and as long as this distinction is there, one should not become a sannyasi. The principle is that sannyasi does not distinguish between male and female. Householder does distinguish. The principle is that, first principle is that one should not pretend to be in some other ashram. Saunaka Rishi inquires about Parikshit Maharaj because inquiries about pure devotees of Krishna will lead to narration of Krishna's pastimes. That how Krishna is Bhakta Vatsal, how Krishna saved Parikshit Maharaj. Therefore, the inquiry about Parikshit Maharaj is also relevant because it is going to give rise to Krishna Katha. Sutta Goswami explains how Srila Vyasadeva was able to see anomalies of the future. Therefore, for the welfare of all, Srila Vyasadeva divided the Vedas into 4 Vedas and asked the disciples to teach and spread Vedas. But Srila Vyasadeva is feeling dissatisfied. Srila Vyasadeva has followed Brahmacharya Vrat properly, has worshipped Vedas, worshipped Guru. Still he is unsatisfied. Srila Vyasadeva is incarnation of God, still feeling dissatisfied. This feeling of dissatisfaction was infused by Lord Shri Krishna in Srila Vyasadeva because Lord Shri Krishna wanted the Srimad Bhagavatam can take his appearance. Srimad Bhagavatam is as good as Krishna himself. Srimad Bhagavatam is the cream of all Vedic literature. Srila Narad Muni appears to guide his disciple Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva offered obeisances and respects to his spiritual master, Srila Narad Muni. That's a quick summary of chapter 3, the last part, and chapter 4. Any questions, comments, realizations? All right. So we'll now have chapter 5, Abhishek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Seeking permission and blessings from all devotees, Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada and Sri Sri Radhakrishna, to be able to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. Please forgive if I make any mistakes. Chapter 5 describes Narada's instructions to Vyasa. I am presenting on two sections which cover verse 1 to 8 and 8 to 22. The first section describes Narada's inquiries about Vyasadev's despondency and how Vyasadev responds to that. So the section begins by Narada smiling because Narad Muni is the guru and he knows the situation of Vyasadev, that he is dissatisfied at heart, and Vyasadev is going to make an inquiry to Narada Muni. So this is an appropriate guru disciple relationship. Narada confirms that Vyasadev, the reason for Vyasadev's dissatisfaction, and which is that Vyasadev has written many Vedic literatures, but the problem with that is that ignorant people who want to identify with the mind and body as the object of self-realization, they will take these literatures and they will follow the concessions which Vyasadev has given, but they will not follow the prohibitions. So even though Vyasadev has no fault in himself, he is completely pure and self-realized. Like for example, generally he's feeling despondency, but like in general, people who have sins or have faults, they feel despondent. But the reason for Vyasadev despondence is not this, because he himself is perfect in his knowledge, as he was able to compile so many Vedic literatures. So Narada here implores Vyasadev further to bring out the exact reason of Vyasadev's dissatisfaction, and it is explained here that even though Vyasa wrote so many scriptures to help people in Kali Yuga, still um, his efforts were not sufficient, because uh, as it is mentioned earlier, that he gave the concessions and prohibitions, but ignorant people, they will always follow the concessions and they will ignore the prohibitions, and they will think that they are following the authority of Vyasadeva. So in this way, they will follow the process of only satisfying the body, which is like the fruitive activity principles, or the mind, which is the Gyan principles. So we see that identifying with the mind and body is the root cause of despondency in all living beings. But this situation is not always clear. Like we may face some problems, but we may not know the root cause of this that problem. So after this discussion between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva shows how to approach a spiritual master at the time of difficulty, and it is all he also glorifies and describes that how Narada Muni is a bona fide spiritual master because he is a true worshipper of the Supreme Lord, and thus he has all knowledge to help others. The next section describes uh, Narada Muni's instructions on the importance of describing Krishna's pastime, which is the exact reason why Vyasadeva was dissatisfied. So, in his response, Narada describes that because Vyasadeva has not glorified the Supreme Lord sufficiently, he is feeling dissatisfied. Though there are descriptions in other scriptures about Lord Krishna himself, but most like there is more description about other activities. So the glorification of Lord is not the prime um, subject matter in all the other scriptures. And as it was described in previous presentation, that loving service to Lord Krishna is is the only thing which satisfies both the Lord and the Jiva himself. And Vyasdev has not focused on this aspect yet. It is also important to understand that Vyasdev has compiled so many literatures, but he is dissatisfied himself. So it gives an indication that how can any reader of such literatures be satisfied if the author himself is feeling despondency. Vyasdev, even though knowing the supremacy of glorifying Supreme Lord in devotional service, has used his time unwisely in focusing on the four less important religious principles, and this is making him dissatisfied. Verse 10 is a very important verse in this section, where Narada Muni gives an analogy that saintly people consider any word which don't describe the glory of the Lord as place of pilgrimage for crows. It is called Bayasam Tirtha. So crows, they always gather at filthy places. Similarly, ignorant people, they take pleasure in immoral things. On the other hand, literatures which glorify the Supreme Lord, even if they may have some grammatical mistakes, they are always sung by purified men. As such, glorification of Lord brings about revolution in the lives of impious people. And this is the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is described that liberation, the knowledge of liberation or self-realization, even though it is free from material conception, does not look well without the conception of God, without the knowledge of Lord Krishna. And if this knowledge, which is free from material affinity, is not very good, then what to speak of the lower knowledge of fruitive activities, which is always painful in the beginning and also in the end. In the beginning, there is hard work required in fruitive activities, and in the end, the results, the fruits which come, they also bind us more in material conception of life. So it is always a problem. Vedic literatures devoid of devotional service are condemned. Fruitive works, like as I described, they required hard labor, and the results are always bad in the beginning and in the end. Till now, Vyasdev has described various paths in various literature, and the result of this is that the ignorant people will be puzzled to find the ultimate goal of life, and they will use Vyasdev's authority to enjoy in the name of religion, and they will be deluded from the path of going back to Krishna. Like, for example, regulated flesh eating is given in the scriptures, but people have taken this as an opportunity to encourage flesh eating rather than considering that regulation is given so that the practice could be entirely stopped. Sri Narada suggests that Vyasadeva should show the way of actual transcendental realization through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Lord. Narada Muni summarizes that happiness and distresses come on their own accord in life, so there is no need to describe how to make specific endeavors for material happiness. Intelligent people should make endeavor only for God realization. Narada explains that the path of pure devotee is best because if he is successful, he can reach Krishna, and even if he falls down, his fall down is only a chastisement from Lord to bring him back to pure devotion. But for a karmi or a jnani, his fall down is because of his material karma, the reactions of his work. So Narada Muni gives here a conclusion that Vyasadeva should describe the pastimes of the Lord, the glories of the Lord more directly, and this is the purpose of any type of advancement of knowledge. Thank you for this opportunity of speaking. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Chandan Prabhu is next.
Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, and Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Seeking permission from Guru and Gauranka to speak on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a continuity of the chapter 5, part 3 and 4. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namah. Seeking permission from all the assembled devotees for any of my shortcomings. Part 3, Narada Muni narrates his past life. Narada Muni was born to insignificant parentage, not educated because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord. From the personal example of Sri Narada Muni in his previous births, it is clear that the services of the Lord begins with the service of the Lord's bona fide servants. Utilization of the human energy in the service of the Lord is progressive path of salvation. Before initiation, the boy must be advanced in discipline. So without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, and without being obedient, no one can become successful in following the instructions of spiritual master, and without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. Narada Muni, born to maidservants who were engaged in services of Brahmanas during rainy season, he was engaging to the personal services of such pure devotees. He was, as a boy, infected with the qualities of purity of their association, and by eating once the remnants of the foodstuff taken by them. This transcendental taste at once makes all material things distasteful because of the association of pure devotees. The Lord descends on this material world out of his causeless mercy and displays his various transcendental pastimes as a human being, so that human beings attracted towards him become able to go back to Godhead. One can get spiritual success by turning his attention to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. By hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Lord, one could contact the Godhead, thus being cleared of all sins. Narada Muni explained his personal experience of this association with Vedantists, and he became attached to Godhead, attaining highest perfection in life. By ignorance only, the conditioned soul wrongly thinks that both he and Lord are products of material nature. Ignorance, like darkness, which can be cleared by light, compared to sun as personality of Godhead. Nothing is existing without personality of Godhead. Subtle body, by rendering services to the Lord, the knowledge of light permits. Subtle mind engaged in hearing and thinking and chanting his name to remove ignorance. Pure devotional service flows like a river by the association of pure devotees to reach the goal of transcendental love of God, which is unlimited. Thus, he became liberated from the modes of passion and ignorance. Qualification for a pure devotee. Association of a pure devotee, avoid pseudo-devotee, plain and gentle to receive. Instructions from pure devotees must surrender to Godhead, understand Godhead a proprietor, all others are his servitors. Neophyte must be obedient, strictly follow instructions of pure devotee as a spiritual master. The Lord is the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. The instructions of the Lord can be understood by the devotees only. The most confidential knowledge of devotional service is far above knowledge of impersonal Brahma, which develops to knowledge of Paramatma. When such knowledge is turned into pure devotional service and the confidential part of transcendental knowledge is attained, called the most confidential knowledge. By devotional service, the most confidential knowledge could be understood as the energies of the Lord are working for manifesting material world, and number 2 for the spiritual world, number 3 via medium manifesting for living entities. Material energy struggling for existence and happiness. Spiritual energy directly by the Lord is eternal and perpetual bliss. The most confidential part of knowledge is to come back to the Godhead, to the Lord, by giving up all engagements in the material world. Narada Muni attained the stage of eternal knowledge and eternal bliss. Narada, the other part, and part number 4, Narada Muni advises Srila Vyasadeva. Narada Muni explored his experiences as explained his experiences of the path of salvation or to get relief from all miseries of life is to hear submissively the transcendental activities of the Lord from the right and bona fide sources. Without the sanction of the Lord, no plan or no remedial measures can actually bring about the desired peace and tranquility. We must therefore dedicate our attempts to the mercy of the Lord for ultimate success or to get rid of miseries. Fight for the cause of the Lord as Arjuna did. One should spend his hard-earned money for the cause of the Lord. Engage in the service of the Lord. That is the way of peace and prosperity. The threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized. The best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the supreme spiritual being. The material thing will turn into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. That is the way to treat our material diseases and elevate ourselves to the spiritual platform. The Vedic mantra that everything is Brahman is thus realized by us. As long as the propensity for enjoying the fruit of work is there, one has to continue the transmigration of the soul from the body or place to another. One's activity is changed into karma yoga. When the result of all fruiting and other work is dovetailed with the service of the Lord, it will cease to generate further karma and will gradually develop into transcendental devotional service, which will not only cut off completely the root of banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performers to the lotus feet of the Lord. One exhibits all the qualities of the Lord as a gradual development by association of pure devotees. Bhakti yoga is considered another form of karma. This karma yoga is recommended by Narada, which principle is to satisfy the Lord. Devotee engaged in unalloyed service of the Lord by hearing and chanting, his transcendental glories become spiritually enlightened by the divine grace. One should work only for the Lord in all sphere of life. The result of all activities must be given to the Supreme Enjoyer, Lord Krishna. To be associated with his name, fame, to constantly means to associate with the Lord. The attempt must go on to convert unwilling men to become devotees. Lord Chaitanya taught simple method of teaching this lesson and preaching the transcendental message by singing, dancing, and refreshment, and also advised at least to spend 50% of income for this purpose. Such spiritual activities must be conducted under the guidance of a pure devotee for path of perfection. Progressive march of transcendental devotion for the Lord culminates in the attainment of loving service of the Lord, which is called prema, in different transcendental variegatedness called as rasas. That means otherwise tests. The most confidential part of instruction is that one should chant and remember the glories of the Lord Sri Krishna along with his expansions. The transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of the holy mantras or transcendental sound representation from bona fide spiritual master. The Lord reveals his identity gradually to one who has unflinching faith both of the spiritual master and in the Lord. One can obtain all facilities just like Narada by chanting this transcendental sound, provided it is received through Narada representative coming down from the chain of disciplic succession or the parampara system. Narada advises Vyasudeva to broadcast the transcendental knowledge of God in terms of the vast Vedic knowledge he had already attained. Narada Muni advised Vyasa to describe the glories of the Lord to God, to good and bad, and all the classes of men. Bhagavad Gita is meant for all who seek peace of mind. Thank you for the patient hearing of my presentation. Hare Krishna.
Okay, super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for presenters?
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead, Abhishek Prabhu.
One clarification to the like at some points it is said that Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for uh, the topmost devotees at different places. At some point it is also said that it is uh, meant for all of us. So like I just want to understand the different context in which these two statements are made.
Yeah. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is attractive to the pure devotees also. So therefore, the sages asked that about Sukadeva Goswami, that Sukadeva Goswami is already elevated pure devotee. Why did he take up the study of Srimad Bhagavatam? And the answer described is that Srimad Bhagavatam is so relishable that it attracts even the pure devotee to studying and reading the pastimes of the Lord. But in general, Bhagavatam is for everyone, to elevate anyone and everyone. Abhishek Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right, super excellent. Okay, let me quickly summarize chapter 5 as well. Chapter 5 is titled Narad Muni's instruction on Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Vyasadeva. So those identifying with body and mind, they will follow Srila Vyasadev's work as the object of self-realization. And this is the cause of Srila Vyasadev's dissatisfaction. Srila Vyasadeva cannot make mistakes. There is no flaw in Vedas compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. People are interested in sense gratification. Srila Vyasadeva gave concessions and prohibitions. People rejected the prohibitions and accepted the concessions. This became the cause of Srila Vyasadev's moroseness. Worldly pleasure of materialistic people is defined as whatever body and mind wants. Therefore, by Srila Vyasadeva, by compiling Vedas, Srila Vyasadeva is showing the way to gratify the body and mind. Anything devoid of Krishna will agitate the mind. Srila Narad Muni reveals to Srila Vyasadeva the importance of describing Krishna's pastimes. Srila Narad Muni says to Srila Vyasadeva that you thought you were doing welfare for all people, but actually you have not glorified the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are dissatisfied. If you are feeling dissatisfied from your own compilation, that means people who will read your compilation of literatures will also feel dissatisfied. Mundane literature, even if beautifully composed, focuses on body. Any descriptions devoid of Supreme Personality of Godhead are lifeless, are inauspicious, are contaminated. Such literatures are described as Tadvyasam Tirtham, means a place of pilgrimage of crows. Refers to fruitative workers. Crows take pleasure in garbage. But devotees of the Lord are defined as Hamsa or swans. Such Paramahamsa do not take part in mundane literature. Devotees will always connect with scripture and not interested in mundane worldly literatures. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literature for devotees, for the Paramahamsa, for the swan-like devotees. Therefore, devotees do not derive any pleasure in reading mundane literature. On the other hand, Vedic literature, even if imperfectly composed, can cause a revolution because every shloka is glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even if these verses are not chanted properly, even if there are grammatical errors or anything, they still are relishable. Devotees, Paramhamsa, are very much eager to hear. Either they hear from someone or they speak so that others can hear. If no one is there, they spontaneously sing the glories of the Lord by spreading literatures, such literatures such as Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes of the Lord, will bring a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misguided civilization. The compromising spirit of Srila Vyasadeva is very much condemned by Srila Narad Muni with the word Jugupsitam, verily condemned. People in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you, Srila Vyasadeva, have encouraged them in that way, in the name of religion. This is verily condemned. Under your instructions, Srila Vyasadeva, people will accept such activities of lower path in the name of religion and will hardly care for the prohibitions. Because people will accept Srila Vyasadeva as authority and people will think this is religion, resulting in that they will not make spiritual progress. Therefore, this is abominable. The analogy is given that an expert physician does not compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what the patient should not take at all. Srila Narad Muni is saying to Srila Vyasadeva that you should describe the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is going to definitely benefit everyone. So question may come up, is there evidence that what you are asking me to describe the pastimes, that these pastimes are going to benefit anybody? Therefore, Srila Narad Muni describes his own life experience, how this has helped him, that this study of Srimad Bhagavatam has helped him to become a pure devotee from an ordinary Shudra boy. Narad Muni describes the appearance of pure devotion and its growth to prema. Devotee's mercy is the cause of pure bhakti. That how an ordinary boy of a maid servant goes on to become a pure devotee, that we now know as Srila Narad Muni. How Narad Muni came to the platform of Ruchi is being described through the various stages and up to the stage of prema. Srila Narad Muni describes from his own life experience that how devotee's mercy is the cause of pure bhakti and how such mercy helped him reach the stage of prema, become Srila Narad Muni from an ordinary 5-year-old Shudra boy. First, he describes the qualities. Srila Narad Muni explains his qualities in his previous life as a child of a maid servant, that he was very disciplined, was self-controlled, no attachment for sports, he was not naughty, did not speak more than required, and without being disciplined, without being obedient, one cannot follow the instructions of spiritual master. Next is sadhu sangha and service, that from the personal experience of Srila Narad Muni, service of the Lord begins with the service of the Lord's bona fide servants. By getting association and serving the Bhakti Vedantas, Srila Narad Muni got taste to hear Krishna Katha, resulting in Srila Narad Muni coming to the platform of pure bhakti. Hence, Srila Narad Muni is saying that devotee's mercy is the cause of pure bhakti. Next, he describes Bhajana Kriya. When Bhakti Vedantas offered their mercy to this 5-year-old boy, then the practice of such bhakti by the 5-year-old boy attracted even more mercy of the Bhakti Vedantas. Next stage, the Anartha Nivritti to Ruchi is described that the process to become free from sins is to take the remnants of the prasad of the pure devotees with their permission. This way, the 5-year-old boy became purified. This is how Srila Narad Muni developed the taste or the ruchi for devotional service that the Bhakti Vedantas were having. Next, the asakti and bhava happens, that from the personal experience of Srila Narad Muni in his past life, that simply by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, one directly contacts the personality of Godhead. All accumulated sins are cleared from within, and one can become an associate of the Lord. The result of ruchi or the taste was that Narad Muni's attention was fixed in Krishna consciousness all the time, and he automatically felt detached from material association. And then the prema stage is described that the result of all the previous steps and the association of the unadulterated devotees, meaning those who are pure, totally free from material contamination, plus by hearing the glories of the Lord from such unadulterated devotees, is that one becomes free from the modes of passion and ignorance, and the stage of prema gets manifested. This is how the 5-year-old boy came to the stage of prema and goes on to become a pure devotee that we now know as Srila Narad Muni. Someone or many would say that what you are saying about that one has to be free from all ulterior motives and just be fixed on Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Shravanam program, this seems totally impossible. Krishna says, therefore, that do Karma Mishra Bhakti, because Karma Mishra Bhakti is superior to Bhakti Mishra Gyan. Karma Mishra Bhakti means where Bhakti component is predominant, and Bhakti Mishra Gyan is lower because Bhakti part is less and the Jnana part is more. In Jnana Mishra Bhakti means where Bhakti is more than Jnana, unless the Jnana Mishra Bhakta comes in contact with a Vaishnava, Krishna's pure devotee, they will otherwise easily be taken away with the desire to merge into Brahman effulgence. Therefore, follow Karma Mishra Bhakti, which is an easier process and can grant you the highest destination. Karma Mishra Bhakti means Bhakti is predominant. Devotee understands that while in the material world, I cannot give up karma, I cannot give up obligations to society and family. So Yukta Vairagya principle is better. Activities in the world can also liberate when these are performed as Nishkam Karma Yoga, because I cannot give up obligations of the material world. I have to dovetail. I have to follow Yukta Vairagya principle. Nishkam means you do for the Lord. But Jnani is not doing the activity for the Lord. Jnani is renouncing prematurely. Therefore, Jnan path is inferior. While doing karma in the world, the difference in the mood of a devotee and the materialistic person is that the devotee understands that Krishna is my master, I am a servant. Whatever activity I am doing as an offering to Krishna. I am totally dependent on Krishna. I have accepted that I am a servant and all activities I am doing are under the directions of Krishna. Even honoring prasadam is not to become fat or healthy, but is to maintain the body so as to serve Krishna. That's a quick summary of chapter 5. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. Chapter 6, Shivangi will start.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permission and blessings from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru Parva, as well as Sri Radha Krishna, to offer this summary of Canto 1, Chapter 6, titled Conversation Between Narada and Vyasadeva from verses 1 to 20. Please forgive me for my shortcomings and mistakes. In this chapter, Srila Narada Muni describes how he was able to have a brief audience with the Lord while he was absorbed in a transcendental thought of separation from the Lord, and when it was very painful for him. The chapter begins with Srila Vyasadeva's inquiries to his guru Srila Narada Muni. Srila Vyasadeva wants to know more about Narada Muni's journey to perfection. Thus, he inquires what Narada Muni did after obtaining initiation from the Bhaktivedantas. By his example, Vyasadeva teaches us that posting inquiries before the guru is an important factor on the spiritual path in order to attain perfection. He further inquires, for everyone's benefit, how Narada Muni spent his time after initiation from the Bhaktivedantas, and how he attained his spiritual body after having quit his whole body as the 5-year-old boy in his past life. Srila Vyasadeva's last question is also important because he asks how Narada Muni was able to retain memories of his past life. In the next section, Narada Muni describes how he begins his travels as well as his realizations. Narada Muni highlights how proper sadhusanga brings about quick transformation in life for spiritual realization. The tangible changes in his life were caused by initiation by the Bhaktivedantas. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord, therefore everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. Narada Muni goes on to explain how his mother, the maidservant, bound him by the ties of her affection. As the 5-year-old boy, he was dependent upon her affection and did not have any experience of the world. A tragic incident occurred when his mother passed away. From this, we can learn that this is the Lord's way of bringing a sincere soul closer to Him. The 5-year-old boy was left alone without anyone to look after him, and now he was put completely at the Lord's mercy. It's important to note that anything and everything that the Lord does is always and only for the benefit of everyone. Devotees also understand this fact and how this is the Lord's special mercy. What may be seen as a difficult situation in the material sense is Krishna's special mercy, because this is how he reduces the temperature of the conditioned soul's material fever and helps the conditioned soul regain their spiritual health gradually. In his travels, the Bhagavatam states that Narada Muni, as the 5-year-old boy, passed many cities, towns, and beautiful sceneries. We can learn that the traveling mendicants or preachers, Parivrajakacharyas, exemplify that hearing and chanting are the easiest devotional practices to engage in. Such enlightened persons travel for the sake of spreading the glories of the Lord and engaging the common people in devotional service. In the next section, we see Narada Muni's experience of ecstatic love of Godhead and his feelings of transcendental separation. So he finds himself under a banyan tree, poised to meditate upon the Lord in the heart, as he learned from the Bhaktivedantas. Because he meditated upon the Lord with transcendental love, the Lord appeared in his heart immediately. Narada Muni was able to see the Lord with transcendental feelings because he was able to attain this elevated state due to serving the Bhaktivedantas. That the Lord is formless or impersonal means that he has nothing like a material form and is not like any material personality. Intense spiritual feelings of love have no mundane comparison, thus it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. Being overwhelmed by the love for the Lord, he was unable to see himself or the Lord. One can only perceive and understand such feelings in a highly elevated state. The Lord, by his form, destroys all the sadness, depression, grief, and disturbances of a person's mind. Thus, the 5-year-old boy was perturbed after having lost the Lord's darshan. Despite his repeated efforts to follow the same process, the Lord did not appear again. From this, we can learn that the Lord appears of his own free will when he is pleased with someone's service, just as the sun rises and sets of its own accord. When he pleases, being satisfied with a sincere attempt of devotional service, depending completely upon his mercy, he may be seen of his own accord. The Lord then spoke to the 5-year-old boy with gravity and pleasing words to comfort him in his grief. When he heard the pleasing words of the Lord, the feelings of separation were mitigated to some extent. A devotee like Srila Narad Muni, in love with God, always feels the pangs of separation from him. Thank you for the opportunity to present this summary. Hare Krishna.
Super excellent. Divya is next.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking permission from you all, Srila Prabhupada, and all gurus in disciplic succession, and Shri Radha Krishna to present my attempt at summarizing the second half of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6. Please forgive me in advance for my mistakes and shortcomings. The Lord spoke to Narada Muni. It is important to understand that the Lord speaking to Narad Muni in his previous life was a special mercy granted by the Lord. The personality of Godhead is the purest, the supreme, and the absolute truth. As such, if one has even the slightest tinge of materiality on them, they cannot approach him. When one begins devotional service, they are working to free themselves from the modes of passion and ignorance, that is kama or lust, and lobha, greed or covetousness, and arrive at the platform of goodness, and then be free from the desire for sense gratification. However, one has to eventually come out of the mode of goodness also and enter the mode of transcendence, where one is freed completely from all material attachments and affections. Only one who is in the mode of transcendence can connect personally with the Lord. Even though Narad Muni traveled through many forests and meditated there, because he was searching for the audience of God in a place in the mode of goodness, for us, there is no requirement to follow this process. The best method to get in touch with the Lord that can be followed by us is to do devotional service in a place of transcendence, like the Lord's temples and his holy places, and to follow and serve his pure devotees and practice the Kirtan process wherever we go. By serving the Lord intensely, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. Seeing the Lord is the same as engaging in his service, because his service and his person are identical. For this, we need to increase our hankering to engage in the Lord's service. It means that we should constantly be thinking, willing, and feeling for the service of the Lord. Sadhana should be performed in this way under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, and this will gradually destroy our material desires. If we cannot hanker for the Lord's service, then we should endeavor to hanker for the hankering to serve the Lord. The direction of a bona fide spiritual master is important because neophyte devotees cannot directly approach the Lord due to their imperfect material senses. Thus, serving the spiritual master and the Lord's devotees is even better than direct service to the Lord. Under the Guru's guidance, one will ultimately get trained in transcendental devotional service of the Lord, become free from the material worlds, and get promoted to become a liberated associate of the Lord in his kingdom. Any devotional service done for the Lord never goes in vain and is accumulated throughout all the lifetimes of the devotee. Any intelligence used in the service of the Lord is permanent and is never destroyed through the birth after birth process, and one will always remember the Lord through the Lord's or the Guru's mercy. Even though Narad Muni in his previous life could not see the Lord a second time and instead heard his voice, it is not any different from seeing him. The Lord in his sound form is not any different from his personal form, and through persistent chanting, we can see and hear him. Narada Muni is traveling and preaching. After his audience with the Lord in his previous life, Narada Muni exemplified the life of a sincere devotee by chanting, remembering the holy names of God and chanting his transcendental pastimes and traveling all over the world to share this with others without any motive for material gain. The only motivation for such a devotee is to go back to Godhead, and because of this, they are never envious of anyone and they are not proud of their eligibility to go back to Godhead. Narad Muni, at this stage in his previous life, was fully absorbed in thinking of the Lord and had no more material attachments or taints. Just like how a very rich man has no hankerings for small petty things, so too are the devotees of the Lord whose life is eternal and blissful. They have no hankerings for petty material things that are impermanent. This is the sign of a spiritually enriched person. When a devotee reaches this stage of purity, similar to Narad Muni, this change of body from material to spiritual, which is death, occurs instantly like lightning. A spiritual body is eternal, it's free from the material modes of nature and free from the reactions of fruitative actions. A change in body means the stoppage of the reactions of the three material modes of nature on the devotee. When the creation cycle ended and all living beings entered into the womb of the Lord, Narad Muni also did so in his transcendental state. In the next creation cycle, he emerged directly from the Lord's transcendental body along with the other great rishis and kept his spiritual body. Therefore, by the grace of the Lord, he is able to travel freely between the material and spiritual worlds and is constantly singing the Lord's glories on the transcendental veena that was gifted to him by the Lord himself. His birth as the son of Brahma is not a conditional birth and is instead a transcendental pastime. Sutta Goswami describes the glories of Narad Muni. Narad Muni states from his personal experience that those thinking or doing things on material subjects will never feel fully satisfied and are full of anxieties. This is because material subjects are illusory. They are Maya, that which is not. They are not capable of satisfying anyone permanently. Since living beings are inherently active, their thinking and doing cannot be stopped, and it is only advised to change the subject to transcendence and the Lord's activities and glories. This constant chanting of the Lord's transcendental activities becomes the boat by which the conditioned soul can cross the ocean of nescience. The yoga system can help with sense control and give relief from desire and lust, but it cannot provide the satisfaction to the soul which comes from devotional service to the Lord. Narad Muni recommends the process of transcendentally engaging the senses in the Lord's service instead of artificially controlling them. This method is more effective because the senses will never engage in sense satisfaction or face the temptation because they are transcendentally engaged. After explaining his personal journey of self-realization to Srila Vyasadeva, Narad Muni takes his leave to continue traveling and discharging his devotional service fully under his free will. Devotional process is fully based on free will, and when one surrenders their free will to the Lord through the Guru, that is how they can achieve complete freedom of life. Sutta Goswami concludes this chapter by glorifying Narad Muni, which is the last shloka, verse 1.6.38. Shivangi is kindly offered to recite the shloka and read the translation for me.
Aho devashri danyoyam yatkirtim shangadanvanah gayan madyanidam tandra ramayati aturam jagat. All glory and success to Srila Narad Muni because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead, and so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe.
This concludes our presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, titled Conversation between Narada and Vyasa. Thank you everyone for listening.
All right, super excellent presentation by the sisters and super excellent recitation. Any questions, comment, realizations for the presenters?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna. Go ahead, Archana.
Everyone is so excellent. Oh my God. For the next presentation, the other who are left, they will be scared of them now.
Very good. Everybody's setting very high standards. Very good. Very good realization. Very good hearing with rapt attention, Archana. Okay. Although I don't really have anything more to add to what the presenters have done, I will still summarize chapter 6, which basically is going to be repetition. Let me summarize. Chapter 6 is titled Conversation between Sri Narad Muni and Srila Vyasadeva. Narad Muni describes how he got the darshan of the Lord. Srila Vyasadeva inquires 4 questions because Srila Vyasadeva wants to follow in the same footsteps of his spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni. First he asked, what did you do after the departure of the sages? How did you pass your life after initiation? How did you get this body, meaning the body of Srila Narad Muni, after having quit your old one, meaning when he was son of a maid servant? How could you remember the history of your previous life? Not only it was Sri Narad Muni's previous life, but it was also the previous millennium. So in the previous life, as a small boy, Sri Narad Muni was attached to his mother, but then mother leaves the body. Sri Narad Muni accepted this as the mercy of the Lord, because whatever the Lord does is for the good of others. This happened under the influence of time. Sri Narad Muni was not impacted by Kala. When one is not impacted by Kala, then one can start Harikatha. Srila Prabhupada writes that confidential devotees see benedictory mercy of the Supreme Lord. In his previous life, as a small boy, Sri Narad Muni traveled all over, then sat down to meditate. When Sri Narad Muni started to meditate, his heart was completely filled with love for the Supreme Lord. He's still in his previous life as a 5-year-old boy. Well, when I say Narad Muni is still in his previous life. So Lord's appearance on Sri Narad Muni's heart. First, the Lord appears in the heart. Then the devotee experiences through senses. The nose, he smells the tulsi offered to the Lord. Ears, he hears the sound of the ankle bell. Then the Krishna's voice. Eyes, he sees the sweet form of the Lord. The Lord then disappeared. Narad Muni wanted to see the form again. Even though Narad Muni knew the process, Narad Muni followed the process again, but Narad Muni could not see the form again. It is very important that the Lord is not controlled by our sadhana. Srila Prabhupada says that one cannot demand the Lord to appear, but the Lord appears with the sincere attempt of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada writes, the Lord is completely independent of all obligations. There is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. Darshan is completely dependent on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The Lord can simply be bound up by the tie of unalloyed devotion. When he is pleased, being satisfied with the sincere attempt of devotional service, depending completely on the mercy of the Lord, then he may be seen out of his own accord. Those who are not free from material contamination, they cannot see the Lord. Devotional service is the process to free oneself from material contamination. Srila Prabhupada is saying that devotees does not have to go to forest to experience the Lord. No, just do devotional service. Do Gopinath worship, either at the temple or at your home temple. Now, a question may come up that how does one become free from material desires? The answer is that simply by desiring for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can gradually become free from material desires. All impediments to Krishna consciousness residing in the heart will simply disappear when we desire for the Supreme Lord. Simply desire for Krishna, meaning thinking, willing, feeling and willing, and meaning hanker for the Lord. This is how Narad Muni got darshan. Krishna awarded the boon to Srila Narad Muni that after giving up this body, meaning the 5-year-old boy body, you, Narad Muni, will be my associate, meaning Krishna's associate. And another benediction, Krishna saying that your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Just as lightning and illumination happen simultaneously, similarly, a devotee simultaneously changes his material body and develops spiritual body by the will of the Lord. The purpose of Narad Muni's travel is for the welfare of all people. Narad Muni's chanting acts as a boat to cross over the ocean of nescience, because Sri Narad Muni's chanting is pure. Sri Narad Muni's singing, chanting is for the benefit of ordinary people like me. That's a quick summary of chapter 6. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just one quick just clarification. Are all pure devotees by the mercy of God given remembrance, or it was just specific only to Sri Narad Muni?
All pure devotees have this mercy of remembering.
Thanks, Prabhu.
All right. Let's first summarize chapter 7, first 11 verses, and then I'll answer Abhishek's Prabhu posted in the chat. Pragya is first.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I am seeking permission from all of you, Srila Prabhupada, and all gurus in the disciplic succession, and Sri Radha Krishna. I will try and summarize Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verses 1 to 11. Please forgive me for all my mistakes and shortcomings. I express my deep gratitude to Ramvilas Prabhu for giving me this opportunity. So, as Divya and Shivangi beautifully summarized chapter 1 of chapter 6 of Canto 1, it was about the conversation between Sri Narad Muni and Srila Vyasadeva, wherein Sri Narad Muni answers Srila Vyasadev's humble queries. In this presentation, we will cover two parts of chapter 7 on Srila Vyasadeva's meditation and his teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Goswami. So, hearing about the experiences of devotional service of Sri Narad Muni, chapter 7 discusses that Srila Vyasadeva proceeded for a transcendently powerful meditation on the western bank of the river Saraswati in his own ashram that was surrounded by berry trees after touching water for purification. So, verses 4 to 7 of this chapter are considered to be the summary of entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and it was a very pleasurable experience for me to prepare a summary, and I humbly submit the same. So, during meditation, Srila Vyasadeva engaged his mind in devotional service. Srila Vyasadeva followed the advice by Sri Narad Muni that true devotional service meant being absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the process of devotional service. Since Srila Vyasadeva was pious and had no trace of materialism, he got darshan of the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The vision of the absolute is attained when the curtain of bright light is removed by the mercy of the Lord. So here the absolute refers to Purusha or person. Bhagavad Gita confirms that the Purusha is the eternal and original person. The absolute personality of Godhead is the perfect person. Godhead's manifold energies, internal, external, and marginal, are specifically important. The external energy, however, keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The internal potency or superior energy is spiritual Maya, which dissipates the negativities of inferior energy. The living being, by his constitution, is transcendental to material engagement, but being imprisoned by the external energy Maya, considers himself to be the material cage, that is our body itself, and thereby suffers miseries. Bhagavad Gita explains this in verse 3.27, which says, Prakritehi kriyamanani gunahi karmani sarvashah ahankara vimhudatma karta ahamati manyate. That is, the spirit soul thinks himself as the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. The actual knowledge of the conditioned soul is covered by nescience or ignorance. The Lord does not desire that a living being is illusioned by external energy, Maya, but Maya performs the thankless task of keeping us under illusion, and Maya has a bewildering influence on all of us. The Lord has put us under the influence of Maya just like an affectionate father puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to discipline them. But the all-affectionate Almighty Father descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of Maya and personally gives relief in the form of Bhagavad Gita, where he suggests that one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord is set free by the order of the Supreme. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita, verse 18.54, which says, Brahma bhutah prasannatma na shochati na kangshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. That is, when one is transcendentally situated and realizes the Supreme Brahman, he frees himself from Maya and attains pure devotion to the Lord. The focus given here is on the surrendering process, the influence of association, and developing the taste for hearing about the Lord, by which devotees are gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. Thus, what is said in Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna is said in Srimad Bhagavatam by the Lord in his incarnation of Srila Vyasadeva. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva explains that though both Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living beings are qualitatively one, but the Lord is the controller of the illusory energy of Maya, whereas the living entity is being controlled by Maya. Thus, the Lord and the living beings are simultaneously one and different. Also, the relation between the Lord and the living being is transcendental, which is why he takes the trouble to reclaim us from the clutches of Maya. Our duty here is to revive our natural love and affection for the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is written by Srila Vyasadeva to help us with that goal of life. If we hear this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna will arise that will free us from the clutches of Maya. The love for Godhead, that is, the love between Prakriti, which is female, and Purusha, the God, who is male, is strong, like the love between a man and a woman. Simply by submissively hearing Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, one can have direct connection with Sri Krishna, and thereby one can attain the highest perfection of life by transcending worldly miseries, illusion, and fearfulness. Srila Vyasadeva saw the all-perfect personality of Godhead. He saw his internal energy, the marginal energy, and the external energy. He also saw Lord's different incarnations. He observed the unwanted misery of the conditioned souls who are bewildered by the external energy. And he saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls is the process of devotional service. This transcendental science begins with the process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, and glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, revival of the dormant affection of love of Godhead solely and wholly depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. Prabhuji also explained this a while back. When the Lord is fully satisfied with the sincere efforts of the devotee, he may endow him with his loving transcendental service. In summary, it is devotional service that frees us from the clutches of Maya and connects us to Sri Krishna. So Srila Vyasadeva, after compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, taught it to his own son, Sri Sukadeva Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. Sri Saunaka asked Sutta Goswami that when Sri Sukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? What Sutta Goswami explains is extremely beautiful. He says that Atma Ramas, who are established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kind of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. Thus, the Lord can attract everyone, including the liberated souls, not only the souls like us. So, Srila Sukadeva Goswami was not only transcendently powerful, but he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus, Srila Sukadeva Goswami underwent the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hari Bol Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Okay, super excellent presentation by Pragya, and also getting the ecstasy that how she was so in ecstasy saying that, oh, she liked these verses, therefore she picked for presentation. Okay, very good. So Priyanka is going to do the exact same presentation verses that Pragya just did. So Pragya summarized Canto 1, Chapter 7, first 11 verses, and Priyanka is going to do the exact same Canto 1, Chapter 7, first 11 verses. So after Priyanka does this same presentation, I'm going to ask all of you a question. So let's first give Priyanka a chance to present. Priyanka.
Hare Krishna. I seek the permission from all devotees, Srila Prabhupada, everyone in the Guru Parampara, Sri Radha Krishna, so I may speak something on the 7th chapter, the first 11 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The 7th chapter is titled The Son of Drona Punished. The first 11 verses are called to be the crux of the Srimad Bhagavatam. These verses are teaching us how glorious the Srimad Bhagavatam is and how it can bring an end to all the suffering that's in our material life at this point. The first 11 verses are divided into two sections. The first section is verses 1 through 7, which is titled as Srila Vyasadev's meditation, followed by verses 8 through 11, which is where we see how Srila Vyasadeva teaches the Srimad Bhagavatam to his own son, Srila Sukadeva Goswami. Covering the first 7 verses, in the first verse itself, we see that a question is raised. The first question is raised by Sri Shaunaka Rishi to Sri Suta Goswami about the activities that were performed by Srila Vyasadeva after his spiritual master, Srila Narad Muni, left for his travels. Now, this verse specifically focuses on the point where we see that the spiritual master has left the place, but we also see that Srila Vyasadeva has followed through the instruction and is actually meditating and following through the instruction of his spiritual master. The next verse talks about the place in which Sri Suta Goswami is supposed to start meditating. The place is called an ashrama, where Srila Vyasadeva will begin his meditation. This verse focuses on the importance of meditating in a spiritually enlivened place. Srila Prabhupada focuses on the word ashrama, which is defined as a place where spiritual activities are performed. We've heard this before that an ashrama doesn't necessarily have to be a dedicated place outside the house for us where we are living. It can be, the devotional place can also be in our own house by making the home as a temple, by performing spiritual activities. In the next verse, the process of the meditation is explained, wherein we see that how Srila Vyasadeva began his meditation by doing Achman. He concentrated and he focused on the transcendental place of meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead as it was instructed by his Guru. So we've seen in the 5th chapter in the 13th verse that his Guru Srila Narad Muni had given the instruction to him, and then this is where he started following along the instruction that was presented to him. The next verse talks about the vision that Srila Vyasadeva got. The verse focuses on Bhakti Yogena and Purusham Purnam. which are elaborated. Srila Prabhupada says that through the verse that Srila Vyasadeva saw the Purusham Purnam, which is an absolute personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, through Bhakti Yogena by engaging and linking his meditation and devotional service. He also saw the external energy, which is Maya, but he saw that the external energy Maya was under the control of Krishna, which is Apashrayam. Srila Prabhupada explains that devotional service is a function of Krishna's internal energy. Srila Vyasadeva was able to surpass the effulgence of Brahman because he realized that he had already realized that Brahman is impersonal and Krishna is the supreme person, is the personality. He realized that the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma realizations are incomplete, which is why and how he was able to surpass the effulgence. Verse number 5 is very important. The purport is very elaborate and it's very nice and beautiful to read through it. It talks about the root cause of the suffering that we are going through and the remedy to overcome it. The verse goes and says, Yaya samhito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paro api manute anartham tatkritam abhipadyate. The meaning of it, and it's defined in the purport, it's also, and in the word-to-word translation, it says Yaya samhito jiva. It says the living entity is illusion, and Atmanam trigunatmakam. The living entity is illusion and has come under the influence of the three modes. Paro api manyate nartham. Although the living entity is beyond the three modes and is originally transcendental, tatkritam chabhipadyate. Still, the living entity thinks of himself as a material product and undergoes the reactions of the material miseries. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that actual knowledge is currently covered by nescience, ignorance. He gives and explains this in through an example of the sun, the sunlight, and the clouds in multiple of his lectures. Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that the the sunlight is an internal energy of the sun, but then the clouds go ahead and cover the sunlight. But then our vision of the sun and the sunlight just get crowded and clouded because of the clouds, which is why we are not able to see it because of our coverings, which is exactly how this verse goes on to explain that the actual knowledge about Krishna is covered by ignorance. In the purport, it is also explained that Krishna does not interfere with Maya's task because such performances of Maya are also necessary for the reformation of the conditioned souls. Krishna does not desire that a living entity be illusioned since he's so compassionate and he knows that our supreme nature is transcendental, which is why he wants to reclaim us back to his supreme abode. He says this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Daivi he esha guna mai, mama maya duratyaya, mam eva ye prabhadyante, mayam etam tarantite. He says, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So if we read only the first two lines of this verse, it is a little sad, but then this verse in itself is called the hope giving verse because of the last two lines, which says, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And how do we cross beyond it? Krishna goes on to explain in Bhagavad Gita 18.65. He says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam evashyasi satyam te pratikyane priyosi me. He says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. In the next verse, the remedy of our suffering is for devotional service all over again because it's very important. It says devotional service is a transcendental science which begins with hearing about Krishna and his pastimes. In Bhagavad Gita 7.1, Krishna says and explains the word tat shrunu, which means try to hear. Reviving our love for Krishna is not a mechanical process, but it depends completely on the mercy of Krishna and Guru. Krishna, in summary, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. The energies which are external are subordinate to Krishna. The soul is engaged in Maya and material energy. Freedom from this bondage is through devotional service, which begins with the process of hearing and chanting, is what's explained in verse 6. So I looked this verse up just to find Srila Prabhupada's lectures on it, and just letting you all know as well, this is quoted more than 100 times by Srila Prabhupada, which gives me a hint that this is quite important to read through. Verse 7 further goes on to explain the benefits of hearing, because a question automatically comes in if devotional service is explained and is given in here, how am I to benefit from it? So, the benefit that Srila Prabhupada focuses on is that it gives us bhakti. So, the word in the Sanskrit word says shoyamanayam. That means simply by giving oral reception to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhaktir utpadyate pumsa, feeling of loving devotional service sprouts up for Krishne Parama Purushe, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse also gives an explanation around how um, Shri Krishna is a person. He has a personal form and a personal feature. The associated benefits along with getting bhakti and transcendental loving service for Krishna are that lamentation, illusion, and for fearfulness are also extinguished on the side. That concludes the first part of the 11 verses. Further on, verses 8 through 11 go on to explain how Srila Vyasadeva went on to teach the Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Sukadeva Goswami, his own son. Verse 8 explains how Srimad Bhagavatam was written. Now, we've heard in the past and we've read that in the past, scriptures were not really handwritten. They were always passed on through disciplic succession, but they were through oral reception, through guru disciple relationship. But this was a time when Srimad Bhagavatam was actually written, wherein it's explained in the verse that after writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva saw the visuals of how conditioned souls were trapped under the energy of Maya. He went on to revise the Srimad Bhagavatam because he was so compassionate towards us, so that he could make it easier for us to absorb the message that was being presented. After compiling and revising it, he taught the Srimad Bhagavatam to his own son, who was already a self-realized soul. Now, a question may arise, if Srila Sukadeva Goswami was already self-realized, then why did he have to learn and read and study the Srimad Bhagavatam? So it's explained in the next verse that this was the exact same question that was raised by Sri Shaunakadi Rishi around why did Sukadeva Goswami have to study the Srimad Bhagavatam. Since we've already read through in the previous verses of the 4th chapter about Srila Sukadeva Goswami's quality, wherein he was equibalanced, he was a great devotee, he's a liberated soul, he was always alert not to be trapped by Maya, had one-pointed intelligence, and had a spotless vision. A brief description is given in here that Srimad Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study even for the Atmaram. So in the next two verses, 10 and 11, Srila Suta Goswami responds to the question that's raised by the sages. He says the transcendental qualities of Krishna are so attractive even to the Atmaram, and they are especially attractive to the Atmaram. He says this because the pastimes are so relishable that the Atmaram can actually go ahead and relish these pastimes way more than anyone else because they are at that sort of platform. The verse goes on to say ahitukim bhaktim, which means unalloyed devotional service towards Krishna. Srila Sukadeva Goswami was an Atmaram, and which is why he was more attracted to the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. He was able to relish those pastimes really well. Verse 11 goes on to expand this response a little more, wherein Srila Sukadeva Goswami went on to realize more transcendental bliss by connecting with the personal feature of Krishna than the impersonal feature. He became very dear to the devotees of Krishna, and the devotees also became very dear to him. So this also goes on to explain the power of association and associating with devotees. Towards the end of this verse, it is explained that Srila Vyasadeva and Srila Sukadeva Goswami became absorbed in the personal features of Lord Shri Krishna. I seek the forgiveness from all devotees in case of any mistakes or any shortcomings in this presentation, and welcome any and all corrections. Hare Krishna.
That's super excellent. Any questions, comments, realizations for presenters? Okay. Let me quickly summarize and I'll come and ask a question to all of you. So chapter 7 is titled The Son of Drona Punished. Chapter 7 describes that the son of Drona, Ashwatthama, killed 5 sons of Pandavas and Ashwatthama was punished by Arjuna and Krishna. Before that comes the point that what did Srila Vyasadeva do after he heard the process from Srila Narad Muni. After Srila Narad Muni described his past life, Srila Narad Muni left. Then what did Srila Vyasadeva do after he heard this process from his spiritual master? By Bhakti Yogena, Srila Vyasadeva meditated on Krishna. He bypassed Brahman effulgence and Paramatma realizations because Brahman effulgence and Paramatma realizations are not complete realization. Srila Vyasadeva also saw that Krishna is controlling the energies, which is described in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya adhyakshena prakati. And Srila Vyasadeva also saw that Jiva identify himself with material body, which is described in 15.7 and 15.7 from Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Vyasadeva saw that how the Jiva are so strongly caught by Maya. And then he also gives the solution of Bhakti Yoga. Sufferings can be mitigated by Bhakti Yoga. So summary of Srimad Bhagavatam is described in these verses that Krishna is the eternal, original Supreme Personality of Godhead and is a person. External energy as Prakriti and internal spiritual energy are working under his direction. As parts and parcels of Krishna, the Jiva is transcendental to material engagement, but Jiva misunderstands himself as one of the material products due to illusion. The root cause of suffering is Jiva being illusioned by external energy. Krishna, as an affectionate father, does not want his children to be chastised, but the illusory energy has taken up this thankless task of keeping the forgotten soul under bewilderment. The remedial measure is to surrender to God and do devotional service. Krishna descends to regenerate devotional service for all of us. Hearing Krishna's glories from realized souls is the process to revive the dormant natural love for Krishna. The revival of dormant love for Krishna does not depend on a mechanical process, but is dependent on Krishna's mercy. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum remedy for the suffering humanity. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, only by the process of devotional service. And one can enter the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Brahman realization and Paramatma realizations are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth and does not permit anyone to enter the kingdom of God by the Brahman realization and Paramatma realization. Impersonal Brahman is also an emanation from the absolute personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The absolute truth is mentioned as eternal and original Purusha, a person. Devotional service is the function of the internal energy. Thus, there is no place for inferior energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of the spiritual light. And similarly, wherever there is internal energy present, the external inferior energy has no place. The process of hearing is stressed. Just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can become free from miseries. One who is engaged in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, immediately the cleansing process starts. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Srila Vyasadeva had originally compiled Srimad Bhagavatam in a very short form. Srila Vyasadeva then expanded the glorification of Krishna when Srila Vyasadeva saw how Jiva was so bewildered, so caught up in material nature. The last point, that Sukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization. Then why did he take up the study of Srimad Bhagavatam? The answer is that such are the glories of Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam, that even Atmaram, such as Srila Sukadeva Goswami, can get attracted. Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study even for the Atmaram. That's a quick summary of chapter 7, first 11 verses. Any questions, comments, realizations? Okay, so here's a question for all of you. All of you can answer honestly. If you feel discomfort in speaking up, you can write a personal chat using the Zoom chat. You can write a personal chat to me. So what was your thought process when Pragya and then Priyanka did the presentation of the exact same verses? When Priyanka did the exact same presentation, what was your thought process? Everybody will answer. Quickly, please answer.
Prabhuji, Pragya did it just like a spiritual master, thoroughly analyzed and with annotations and explanations in brief, as if I've been hearing from the mouth of Ramvilas. I enjoyed that one.
Okay, my question is, what happened when Priyanka did the presentation of the exact same verses? Everybody quickly answer.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So for the Priyanka, the presentation is like more like means with the computer, with the PowerPoints, and she was talking about verse by verse. And you are teaching us we have to talk about the essence of the verse.
Okay.
So that's what I find in that presentation.
Okay.
But it was excellent, Priyanka. It was excellent.
Okay. So there's some devotee says that, okay, same verses in different perspective. Okay. Everybody, I want everyone to answer. What happened? What was your thought process when Priyanka started to speak for the exact same verses that Pragya has already spoken?
Prabhuji,
Pragya, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So the thought was that there could be an overlap, but it is so nice to see that she did it so differently, and it was very relishing. So to hear the same thing in a different manner. So it was, looking at the same thing differently.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Nitya?
Yes, sir, go along the same lines. I was waiting to see if her interpretation and her presentation, how it would differ, how devotees differ even with the same material.
Okay, rest of you, everybody, I want everybody to answer. What was your thought process when Priyanka started to speak on the exact same verses that Pragya just spoke a minute ago? Yeah, Vijay Prabhu says both presenters put lot of quote and shloka in connection with everyone. Very good. Everyone, please answer. Silence. I got silence. Divya.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I think similar to the other Matajis, I was wondering if the content could sound repetitive, that's all.
Okay.
But they both have their own style and they did it very well.
Okay. Rest of you. I still have not heard from so many of you. I don't know what silence means. And if you feel discomfort, you should write a personal chat to me. Okay, so one devotee said there was repetition, therefore there was difficult to focus. Okay. How many of you were in the same spot? That because there was repetition, therefore difficult to focus? Anybody else in the same spot that because there was repetition, there was difficult to focus? And I was looking at my WhatsApp, I was looking at my internet. Anybody in that boat? Okay, I think silence speaks for itself. So let me tell you this, that if you were in the same boat, just as one devotee has mentioned that there was repetition immediately, like a minute after, and I lost focus. And this happens when you go to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, say a temple or any place, and you see the topic and you go, oh, I already know this topic. I don't need to hear this again, and I will go do something else. Well, then you are not a pure devotee. The pure devotee, the Srimad Bhagavatam, even if they are hearing it, the exact same topic, a zillion times, they will still relish. So when Priyanka started speaking, her presentation was spectacular. I actually got goosebumps from her presentation. So I want one of you to read Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.16. Whosoever wants to read. Okay, let get Shivangi read 1.1.16 and let with a high low tone. Shivangi.
Prabhuji, just a second, I'm pulling up the verse.
Yeah.
Just the translation, Prabhuji.
Correct.
Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel, who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord?
It's kind of a sarcastic verse that who will not hear the glories of the Lord, no matter how many times it is repeated. So that's the level. That's the barometer you can judge for yourself, whether you are attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam, to hearing the pastimes or not. Everybody on the same page? Does that make sense?
Ji Prabhuji, makes a lot of
Yes,
sense.
Prabhuji. Prabhuji, if I might humbly add here that it has been a process. I recall being there when we started with our Bhagavad Gita presentation, but I can slowly see the progression, and this is very humble.
Okay, very good.
Prabhuji, I would like to give my Dandavat Pranam to Nitya. Actually, she only handheld me when I did my first presentation for Bhagavad Gita. So thank you so much, Nitya, for guiding us to present the summary.
Okay, very good. Very good exchange with devotees. Okay, let me give you feedback, a general feedback to all of you. So all of you are now progressing very well on doing presentations. So many of you also set the context right. That is the appropriate way to present. So start with invocation. Immediately after invocation, set the context. One thing all of you can add, or at least some of you, speak in the high and low tone to emphasize the importance of certain things. And the last thing I would say, what Pragya was doing, that there is no need to thank me. I am just a servant. So when you ask for permission from devotees, from Srila Prabhupada, from all in Guru Parampara and Shri Radha Krishna, that is enough. There is no need to thank me, because otherwise I become morose. So just thank the others. Okay, last point for today, but not last point. First, I will answer Abhishek Prabhu's question posted in the chat for 1.5.17, and tolerate with me for a minute more, rest of all of you. So the question is, can you please explain 1.5.17 in relation to Nishkam Karma Yoga principles? So the 1.5.17 verse is a very well-known verse, which says that one who has forsaken his material occupation to engage in devotional service for the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. While on the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. So what this is explaining, of course, this verse is talking about pure devotees. So materialistic people, whatever they gain in the material world is taken away at the time of death. Versus anybody who is doing devotional service, it is not lost at all. This is described in Bhagavad Gita 2.40 and 6.40, that any amount of devotional service, even if you have not completed it in this life, you don't lose. In the following life, you continue from where you left off. Does that help you?
Ji Prabhuji. Thank you.
All right. So my request to all of you, that the unit revision is meant for all. Therefore, all are supposed to prepare all the chapters in the unit, whether or not you are presenting. So for the units 1 and 2 presentation, as this was new for some of you, therefore we did not stick to the division that one group of devotees will do odd numbered presentations, odd numbered unit presentations, and the another group of devotees will do even numbered unit presentation. So I request that from the next unit 3 presentations, if we can please stick to the system that group 1 devotees with first name starting from A to K is Krishna, should do odd numbered unit presentations, and the rest of the devotees will become group 2 with first name starting from L to Z, should do even numbered unit presentations. Of course, if not everyone is available to do their respective presentations in the unit, then anybody can pick up. Are all devotees okay with this plan to go to the group 1 and group 2 presentations for odd and even numbered units?
Yes, Prabhu.
Everybody?
Yes,
Fine.
Prabhuji.
So Prabhuji, for unit 3, A to K will do odd number presentation.
Correct.
When the odd number is the unit number or the
Odd
verse?
number is the unit
Chapter.
number. Unit number, odd number is what we'll use as the reference. So unit 3 is odd numbered. Therefore, A to K first name of the devotees will do odd numbered unit presentations. Okay, everybody?
Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay, so homework is the repeat from last week. So read chapter 7 verse 12 to end of the chapter and try to note down reasons for killing Ashwatthama as well as try to note down reasons for not killing Ashwatthama. Try to see if you have a clear answer whether to kill Ashwatthama or not kill Ashwatthama, and or if there is a confusion, who is creating the confusion. We'll have a very heavy discussion on this at the start of our next class. Thank you for tolerating for a few extra minutes. Are we okay to stop here?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.